conflicts today who could not be with us, but we do have a quorum at this time. Welcome, Linda. So nice to see you.
Nice to be here, finally.
Yeah. Linda, as our newest member, would you kindly introduce yourself so not only the board, but those at home can find out a little bit of who you are?
I'm Linda Roderick, born and raised in Howard, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And all my children went to school here, and I'm just giving back to the community any way I can.
I'm so glad to have you. It was about a year ago that one of our members had recommended Linda to be on the board, and somehow her application got lost at town hall, and we were able to revisit it, and we're so happy to have a Howard native on our board. So thank you and welcome to our committee. Our goal is to advocate for seniors in the community, their families, and their caregivers, and we work diligently to try to accomplish that. We've got some great members, and why don't we introduce each other? John?
Hi, I'm John Bathel. I've been in Harwich for 5 years since I retired, and just like helping out.
And John is one of our super volunteers. There's not anything that the staff ask John to do that he doesn't accomplish for us. So he truly is one of our super volunteers.
And he's good at pushing red buttons.
He's great at pushing the button. Ralph?
I'm Ralph Smith. I retired here 25 years ago from upstate New York, and I'm happy to be on the board. I'm enjoying it. Ralph
also is one of our super volunteers, and he does so much here. He is our resident technology expert on the board. He's big into social media, and anything we need to do to push out there, he does for us.
FaceGram was my favorite.
FaceGram.
And Instacart.
Instacart.
Hey, that's a real one.
I know.
And obviously, you know Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, nice
to see you again.
And actually, I'm going to ask our staff to introduce themselves. We'll be speaking with our staff a little bit further in the meeting. So, Lauren? Swifty?
Swifty. Lauren, I'm the new executive assistant at the COA. I started in September.
And speak loudly so our microphone can pick you up. Now, come on, Swifty.
I am not loud.
Andrea.
I'm Andrea Sidoric. I'm the Outreach Service Coordinator, the social worker for the Harvard Council on Aging.
Very good.
So welcome.
And Linda, if you haven't met the rest of the staff, I would ask you just to take a moment after the meeting, if you could pop in, say hello. We're blessed to have the staff that we have. And in my opening comments tonight, we're going into budget season. You know, one of our roles as a board, in addition to policy, is advocacy. And I will let Julie speak about the budget process in her report today. And as usual, the selectmen chose a date in which they will do their joint meeting with the finance committee so that department heads can appear before them, and if they're looking for something outside of what the selectmen have established as their budget message, which is very tight this year, very, very tight. So anything above and beyond what the selectmen have put forth, and I believe it's 1%, 1.5% increase, anything above that has to be justified, and in many cases you have to go before the joint board of finance and the select board to advocate for your budget. When that happens, Julie is the director, she leads the charge. We as a board are there for advocacy and to assist and to support Julie in that role. And I believe the date they have chosen is March 6th, which is a Saturday morning. That will be the day that they'll be doing that joint meeting. So, and as we go on, Linda, please, if there are any questions at any time during the meeting, please jump in so that we can clarify anything for you.
Will do.
We are an active board, and we're very proud of the work that the Howard Council on Aging is doing. And you'll hear today from Andrea some of the programs that we're talking about. You'll hear the same thing from Julie. And we are one of the few committees in town that interact with a tremendous number of volunteers. And to be very frank, the council could not do the work that they do or accomplish the things they accomplish without the role of the volunteers. So again, at any time, just jump into the meeting with any questions. That's it for my report. I'll jump right into our director's report.
Okay.
I guess before I get into my report, I'll let Andrea jump into what she was planning to say today, because I think she's got something great to offer us.
Well, thank you for having me today. When I came to the COA, I talked to Julie, and we really had talked about this, and we had the opportunity to do this when we went to the Massachusetts COA meeting, is I became trained in becoming a dementia friend. So I would love for us to become a dementia-friendly community. And in Massachusetts, you just need to go through a training, and I'll explain what the program is, but it's basically to have our community become where we are really accepting and really taking the initiative to meet people where they are, whatever they may have or whatever illness. But I'll go back what Dementia Friends is actually. It's a global movement. It is something that began in Japan and then was taken to the UK. And from the UK, it came to the States some years ago. And it really is, it includes all sectors. So we'll start here at the community, at the COA. And what we want to do is make Harwich aware that people in the community may have some type of dementia, and basically help the community to really understand what dementia is and the types of dementia. And the other thing that we want to do is have people understand how dementia affects people. So if you're in the grocery store, in the bank, and someone you may know, or you see something, you want to understand that person. I had a case where my mother was in a bakery. She wanted to see the beautiful colors, and my mother did have Alzheimer's, and a man was pretty rude, thinking she was cutting in line, but the wife pulled him aside and said, "This woman has an illness," she whispered. She looked at me and she said she was sorry. And I realized that people need to become more aware, because this is really a place where we do. In Harwich, we have people, the average median age is 63.3 years. We know that in America, in the United States, we have over 6.7 million people just with Alzheimer's. Now, Alzheimer's is just one form of dementia. There are many forms of dementia. And if we as a community could come together, we could really make a difference in the lives of people so they can be out in the community. As I said, it started in the UK, and it started between Greenwich and Cheshire, England, and it was to a point where the school systems, the police officers and the fire people and the storekeepers were all trained. So they understood that, someone who was coming in every week, seeing the changes, how they could help. And it was just a wonderful thing, and it just keeps growing, this movement. The other thing you want to do is, if you're in the community, you want to understand the common behaviors and how to communicate with people. And that's what this will do.
So our plan is to have the COA staff take this training to become Dementia Friends, and then the idea was to go out in concentric circles to offer it to the COA board, which is why we're here today. And then also to the staff at the community center. Clearly it's not going to be an obligation to them, just something that we would offer, and to town staff as well, and as well to the public. So it is something that we put in the newsletter for February to offer it to the public if they want to come.
Right.
Andrea, do you have more on that?
Just a few minutes just
Sure.
to add
No,
to
no,
that,
please.
is definitely that we started the training for the friendly visitors who go out and meet with people in the community. And then Julie and I talked about having our staff trained, because obviously all of our staff and volunteers, we'd like to have them trained. And then we'd also like to bring it to the community center and the rec department, because as a team here, we all interact with certain activities. And then from there, as Julie's talking about, I'd love to see it go to the school system. And I'm hoping to connect with somebody there so we could start training some of the high school students, either a club or groups of these young people can go out in the community. Now, we've all probably had some type of interaction with people who've had some type of dementia, and many of these people, and I'm sure everyone could say, even a family member or a loved one has that. So I think it would be a way if we could start with us and then just keep moving out I think what we could do is really reach out to the whole community and really try to get everyone trained so that they could effectively work with, communicate, and be part of that. So basically, they would be, in January we'll start one public one, but there'll be a way to get the information out to really get us, Harwich, to be a dementia-friendly community, which there are some on the Cape, but I'd love for us to be part of that.
Okay, questions from the board? John,
No?
Ralph,
Sounds great.
Nothing.
Linda, any questions?
No.
Per usual, I have a few.
Okay.
Is there an actual designation as a dementia-friendly community?
Yes, actually, and this isn't the only factor that is taken into account. So there's two designations. There's age-friendly community and dementia-friendly community, and many towns, when they're pursuing one, they tend to pursue both at the same time. But it's it's up to that town. This is something that I started to look into over the past maybe 6 months or so. So you have to meet certain criteria for each one, and there's basically there are many different types of criteria that can be met. You don't have to meet them all, but you have to meet a minimum number of criteria. And you choose what the priorities are in your community that you want to focus on. And once you feel like you have met that minimum criteria, then you can submit. I haven't quite gotten there yet, but you submit something to the appropriate body. Age-friendly community is through AARP, I believe, and dementia-friendly community is through a body in the state, with the state of Massachusetts, right?
Well, right now it's being run through the Jewish Family Center.
Okay.
They're the ones who are taking and doing the training from there. So I think from there, so they recognize that we are starting to be trained.
Okay. So there's this alone would not make us a dementia-friendly community, but it would be one step in the process.
Budgetary implications.
I don't really see any. We've been training. We're doing our programs, so I think as long as they fit into our program schedule.
Yeah.
Like I said, the volunteers. I want to do we started with the friendly visitors, so I don't see any budget problems with that. But
the process is Andrea has taken, which is something that's basically a train the trainer training. It's a lot of train words.
A lot of training there.
So now she can train people to be dementia friendly, and then and most of I don't think I've seen a single training that you have to pay for anyway.
No, there isn't
right?
any cost at all for the training.
So, and I should predicate all my comments that a number of members on the board have personal experience with family members dealing with various types of dementia. And I was not aware, and I'm dealing with one that I'm caretaker for, how important it is to be trained in communicating when we're out with doctors and social situations and so forth. And a couple little steps, little things, giving people a card and say, please be patient. My companion has a memory problem. And the difference in how people relate once you do that. But again, I didn't know that prior to. I think it's a great program, especially if there are no budget implications that we have to advocate for. I think it's a huge issue. It's exploding. And we support a daycare program in another community because we feel how important it is for members of our community. We don't have that program here. So anything that we can do to assist, I think it falls right in line with our mission. And I'd look to my board to see if you agree that falls within the mission of what we're doing in advocacy. Linda, any more comments or any
No,
thoughts
because
about
I
it?
was going to ask about budgeting, but you've already asked.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. Jump in
No,
anytime.
no, go ahead.
John, you think we're in the right direction?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Ralph?
Yes.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Are we an age-friendly community already?
We're not. We don't have an official designation. We do meet a lot of the criteria, just because Harwich has so many older adults in it already, and and the town does a good job providing for those older adults.
You're doing your part.
But there are things that we could still do better.
So, Julie, that's a great question. I want to piggyback on that if I can. Are you going to pursue both of these designations parallel?
I would say it is a long-term but gradual plan, because there are certainly some other priorities in front of me right now. So it's not something that can be undertaken by one person immediately. It's going to have to be a very long-term plan, and it will require some buy-in from stakeholders as well. It's not something that the COA can do on its own.
Okay. Yeah. So then at this time, the priority will be the dementia-friendly community.
Yeah, or I should say the first step would be, building these, building the network of dementia friends. And I think that's a great first step. It's a very good first step.
So just as we talk about it, I want to make sure we're getting the terms correct. Dementia friends, as you are, dementia-friendly community. Is that an appropriate?
I am a dementia champion because I've been trained, but I was trained in Connecticut, but when I came here, I wanted to make sure I was trained again in Massachusetts. So when I train the friendly visitors, say I train us and I train the staff, then we become dementia friends.
Correct.
That means then you can go out and you'll understand that, and you are a dementia friend. The friendly community is that we all work together, so like I said, we could be in a public situation and we'll be able to interact with others. And as Julie said before, we just keep building on that so that everyone knows. But it's actually also helping people understand, as you just said, how to communicate with someone who may have an illness, how to communicate, how to treat, where to go if you need help. Like, it's going to build on that as well.
We'll be one step closer to an official designation of a dementia-friendly community,
Yes.
but that alone will not get us there.
Okay.
Okay.
Two more things. What are the action steps needed, and what do you need from this board? Do you want a motion supporting it?
So we are hoping to schedule a day to train the board members, and it could be either we stay for an hour after the next board meeting if that works for everybody, or a separate day.
Okay. I think this is something, well, particularly since we're going into budget season, that we should share with both TA and select board to let them know that we are pursuing this. And I think it's an opportunity. The board is limited at the time. There are 4 members. And I asked the board for your input on this as well, that potentially inviting them to our training. And in doing so, we may want to either get on the agenda or speak under public comment to the next select board's meeting about this. And I defer to the board and your input on that as well.
Sounds good.
Okay,
That's fine.
sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
It's all open and above board.
And Julie, your thoughts about it?
I think that sounds great.
It's an opportunity to show off the programs that you're working. You've been trained already. You're going to be training us, and if you invite the board, we'd be lucky to get 1, maybe 2 members to come. But I think that's the beginning. And we as a board, I think we should put a motion forward today to support it officially. And then we can bring that to the select board to ask them to consider. And not ask them to support it at this time, but to come to our training to see what it's about.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with that, Andrea?
Yes, I am.
And Julie, would you or Andrea or both be willing to come to a meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I think I'd like to get a motion to support this officially, if you're comfortable with that.
Sure. Motion?
Is to approve the concept of a dementia-friendly community and being trained as dementia friends. Is there a second?
As stated, I will second.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion about it? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? It's a unanimous vote. If you have time, could you have someone reach out to Megan?
Yeah.
To try to get on the
Agenda.
agenda? I think this is great, and I think it's just, and Linda, this is just one of the many, many, many things that this COA does for this community. And I think it's essential. Again, without getting the specifics, I know a number of members on this board deal with family members, who have various levels of dementia, so. Good. What's next?
Okay. The only other thing falling under my report for operations is to say that I did submit the budget for the first round of the budget season. I was able to keep to the 1.5% increase that we were asked to. It was a struggle, but I did do that. There were a few areas that we had mandatory increases in, by which I mean things that were out of our control that were increased. So for example, the dues for MCOA increased this past year because that is based on the number of seniors living in Harwich. And they base that on population that the Executive Office of Elder Affairs uses to also give us our formula grant. It's the number of seniors in Harwich that is the best estimate that the state has at any given time. So it should be based off of the census in 2020, but for some reason that's not the number that has been used in the past couple of years. It's a different number that's been used, but now finally we are using the 2020 census. So it's gone up just a little bit. Anyway, so the dues have also gone up. Fuel use has gone up. Few other things that are just a little bit outside of our control. So I had to increase those areas, which meant other things had to decrease. But we are able to still serve the population with, at the same level as before. And we're just cutting a few extraneous things that
Sounds like my household budget.
we'll have to make up for probably with our grant.
Linda, you should be aware, if you're not, there is another organization. We talk as a three-tiered. We have the Council on Aging, which is the town department, Julie being the director. We have our board, which is the Council on Aging Board of Directors. We also have another organization called the Friends of the Council on Aging.
Okay.
They are a support and advocacy group. They're a nonprofit. They raise funds and they assist with various programs for the Council on Aging. However, they are not just a budget alternative, so to speak. But if we have, Julie meets with them monthly, and if she has specific cases that she needs assistance with, and do you have an example of what you did in the last couple months?
Yeah, so the Friends can help us with everything from emergency financial assistance for an individual. So for example, someone who needed assistance paying for glasses and they just didn't have the funds to do that, all the way to helping us fund a program that we really want to bring to the COA, but we don't have it in our budget to do that. And there's going to be a program in January where they're helping us fund that.
Where did they get their funds?
They fundraise through the community.
Okay.
Where they started, this goes back years and years and years ago, when the town did not have a senior center or a facility for the Council on Aging. There was a group in town that were advocating, and they put together a number of programs. They did a couple of live shows, and they raised significant funds that were earmarked towards building a senior center.
Okay.
When the town built the community center, they maintained those funds. So by law, they still have to fundraise because they're a nonprofit. So they have to fundraise a certain amount every year, but they are also sitting on some funds that they invest that they can utilize to assist. But I have to emphasize, it is not an alternative to our budget. if Julie was having issues and saying, hey, I was cut by 5%, can you guys give us? They can't do that.
Okay.
They can
Understood.
assist in emergencies and specific programs. And we have a representative, Linda, on their board. So they work those. So there's a 3-tier: staff, board of directors, and friends group.
Okay.
And council on aging is in all of their descriptions. So anything else?
So nothing under that.
Any increase in the budget for the board members?
We're gonna double your salary, Ralph.
That would be good. 0 times 2 is 0.
That's still, but we're gonna double it, because to recognize the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
Submit your expense report.
All right, so I did want to provide a report on some grant submissions and the outcomes of those that I have been working on over the fall, throughout the fall. So I have been a busy bee with that. Between like September and November, I've submitted a few grants, and they've all been awarded. Or excuse me, I'm actually still waiting for one, the answer for one.
But you seem positive, though.
But I feel very positive, apparently. Apparently counting that one before it comes. So the one that's pending is to the Harwich Cultural Council, and that one is for $550. It would support a one-time theatrical performance by a woman named Cheryl Fay. She basically brings to life historical women figures. So we're hoping that we get that. What has been awarded already is $2,500 from the Harwich Fund. This is going to fund a cultural arts series throughout the year, so we can hold various performing arts and also participatory arts. So something like a painting class for people to come to. And that will be events that are spread throughout the year. We also received $2,500 from the Mass Cultural Council to support a spring fashion show. So that's a one-time event in March 2024. It's quite a lot of money for a one-time event, so we're hoping it's going to be, you know, a large activity that a lot of people come to.
Well, understand, to hire someone like Ralph Smith to be a model, it's expensive.
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
It's not cheap.
I hope this is gonna be, you know, both gender thing.
Yeah, but that's for the therapy for us
It is.
afterwards.
Touche.
Linda, we
Got
do
that.
good work, but we have a good time as well, as you can say.
And then finally, we just received word that the Massachusetts Councils on Aging have awarded us a field demonstration project grant for almost $6,000. It's $5,910 to support the modernization of the COA, and specifically that's going to fund some new technology for our department, as well as the design and development of a logo and a new website that will be easier for older adults to navigate. So one of those things is something that I'll be coming back here quite a bit for. The logo is something that we've never had before, obviously, and I would like the board's input on that quite a bit.
And you're gonna need Ralph's help for the technology of the website as well.
Right, yeah.
You're a busy man.
I'm ready. Count me in.
We're so fortunate to have you, Ralph. That's $16,000 in grants, by the way, in a couple of months. And great work. And if you haven't written a grant before, the time and energy that goes into writing a grant is substantial. A lot of times you have to add backup documentation, so thank you for doing that. It's our older adults, their families and caregivers will be the benefits of these programs, so great job.
Thanks.
Anything else you have?
Volunteer needs. We do have a few needs, some new things actually. First, not new, but we haven't had this opening for a while. Linda does need some help in the kitchen and dining room, so we're looking for some more help there. So just a refresher, what this role does is it's not cooking or prepping food. The dining room aide helps to serve food, pour drinks like coffee and water, and clean up at the end of the meal. There's plenty of time to talk to the patrons, chat with them, get to know people. So it's also like very customer servicey, so to speak. And then a completely new role, I'm looking for some what I'm calling technology assistants.
Here you go, Ralph.
There it is. I knew I'd be asked sometime.
So what I'm envisioning is pairing folks one-on-one, someone who's very tech savvy with someone who is not, to help with a very specific problem. So you wouldn't be like, a support center forever for this person. It's something where you would help with 1 or 2 specific issues for about an hour. So something like how to check email, how to download pictures or send photos by text, personalizing a phone screen, how to use the App Store, things like that. Someone who really needs help using a smartphone, for example.
No.
Ralph wants to know where do you sign up for the
This
class.
sign up sheet.
So back to the kitchen
Yeah.
assistants. And those are things that we've done at the men's and the women's breakfast. You see the staff doing it. We had Carol's here last week for seniors, which was a great program. Happened to be pajama day here at the Council on Aging. It was very colorful. It's a great opportunity to socialize for people. And what are you looking for? How many volunteers, and what is the
hours.
the responsibilities? Yes.
I'm not sure which day Linda's looking for right now, but this would be for lunches. So the hours are approximately 10:15 to about 12:30.
Okay, so pretty much a little 2-hour
Yeah.
time frame. And she has a need for a couple of these, or
I would say 1 or 2 people.
okay.
When you speak of lunches, it's specifically not the women's breakfast.
Right.
You're talking about lunches,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
10:15 to 12:30.
And it's if you haven't been here, Linda, to see the lunch program, it's essential. I know 2 of the folks who take advantage of it, and it is basically their day. It is the highlight, the social highlight, the engagement highlight of their days, and and again, the staff can speak to how important it is in the lives of these community members. Technology, you need to obviously know what you're doing, and how many are you looking there?
I would take as many volunteers as possible right now, I think.
Okay,
'Cause I know there's a need for this.
I have a couple of former tech people that I'll reach out to them as well. And we'll put something out on social media. Ralph, with your social media, I know if you
Right.
put it out there, it'll be great. But it's a great opportunity if you're in the community and you know of someone who has a background, who wants to help. Great opportunity to do so. Any other volunteer needs, or?
That's it for
That's it
volunteers.
for now? Okay. Anything else staff-wise? Either of you? Swifty?
So I do have one question
Yeah.
on the technical assistant. Is that at a person's house or here at the COA?
I think it could be worked out either way, whatever people were comfortable with. Yeah.
And all volunteers still need to go through the process of Corey, et cetera.
Sure, of
Okay,
course.
okay, that's fine. All right, we have an old business report on any updates from the Charter Review Committee. Just that we're aware, and I want to keep this at the forefront. There's now a petition out in the community to require the town to have an elected Charter Review Committee. So in the process, there's a committee right now, they're going through the charter, but the petition out there, that's substantial, it needs close to 1,800 signatures in order to be brought to town meeting to require the town to have an elected charter review. I think committee is the appropriate term they use. The reason I want us to be aware of it and to keep it in the forefront is if that comes available, and if the town does have an elected charter review, I think it's essential that we have a representative there from the Council on Aging, or someone who's a volunteer at the council, or a staff member. We should have a presence there to be a part of it. The petition drive is ongoing. I don't know who's actually in charge of it, but it is something that'll be coming before the select board and potentially town meeting. So I just want us to be aware, again, we should have a presence and be part of the process. So, possibility of Harwich needs assessment, new business.
Yes. So I have been interested in having a needs assessment done for Harwich for a while. Is anyone not familiar with what a needs assessment is? Okay. So a formal needs assessment of a community is undertaken as basically a rigorous, almost a scientific process of assessing what the community feels are the strengths and weaknesses, and therefore the needs in that community. And you may be looking at a specific population. So in this case, we would be targeting those who are over a particular age, probably over age 60. You could say over 65, but since the COA serves over 60, that's what I would, recommend. And you reach them by making concerted efforts to find people who are not engaged with services. So there are universities and other businesses that are educated in how to do that. So UMass Boston Institute of Gerontology has conducted well over, I think, 60 needs assessments across the state, specifically for towns, and usually they work very closely with the COAs in those towns. They've done a couple on Cape Cod, and I talked with them earlier this year in maybe March or April to get some information about what they do, how they do it, what their process is, and learned a little bit more about that. It is quite a costly process, certainly something that the COA itself couldn't afford, and the town, I think, likely would not support on its own. But the Friends have recently indicated that they would support the funding of this. So I wanted to bring this to the board and see what your initial thoughts are, what your questions are, what your input is, and if it's something that you have interest in pursuing.
Linda, we'll start with you.
Okay, let me ask you, are you talking about assessments of people's properties?
No.
No. Okay, so explain that to me.
Sure. So an example would be, there are a couple of different stages to the process. First, once you involve the people, I should say, you would interview some stakeholders in the community. That would be, for example, religious leaders, town staff, town, admin, select board, COA staff, COA board, people who work with the community that you're trying to reach.
Okay.
And ask them, how do you think we should reach these people? What do you think the problems are? Just to try to get some initial information. At that point, you might try to hold focus groups, trying to bring some people in to get their information, to get their insight, asking them some open-ended questions along the same lines. What do you think we should be asking folks in this community? What do you think the issues are? What do you think the strengths are in Harwich? What do you like about living here? What don't you like about living here?
Okay.
And try to get a feel for what people bring up. From that point, you can develop a more targeted survey. And the survey would be around, I think they said 40 to 50 questions. They try to keep it relatively short. That's what they called short. And that survey,
I need 2 pens.
You need a coffee after.
that survey they send out to every single person who matches the target age or demographic that you're trying to reach. So it would go to every household in Harwich that's over 60, for example. And they have a few ways of trying to, increase the response rate. So they send out a postcard ahead of time saying, hey, this survey's coming out and this is why we're doing it. This is why it's important to respond. Then they send the survey out. Then they send another postcard saying, hey, did you send it back? We'd really love to hear your answer. That kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That helps me a lot.
Any other input, Linda?
Sounds good. Sounds like it's going to take a little bit of work. Yeah,
So-
it's not going to be something that's going to happen instantaneously.
No, the whole process from start to finish takes about a year.
Okay, good to know.
John?
To me, it
Patience.
sounds like it might help out with grants.
Definitely.
Oh.
And the benefit that I see is that I'm hoping we would learn more about the people who do not utilize the COA.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What's been the experience of the other towns? Did they
So-
complete it? And
Yep, Chatham had a good, what they felt was a good response rate. They,
did they learn something from it?
yes, so at the time that they did the needs assessment, Mandy Speakman was the director there. She's now with the county. I did talk with her about what she felt the experience was like
Right.
and whether she thought it was worth it. She said they did learn a lot. She shared with me what she thought was the reason they got as many responses as they did. And she said that she did feel that one of the benefits of it was learning more about why people did not use the COA.
Okay.
There are, last year, Friends did a one-day program. They brought in a lot of stakeholders across, actually the Cape in addition. And I know the Friends were not totally satisfied with the outcome of that. We have a local planning committee right now doing a needs assessment for the community as a whole. It's not targeted, it's not specific to older adults. And their program is going to be probably much longer than just a year, but it's looking at the entire community and the needs, and they're somewhat struggling with the response rate because they've got postcards out, they've been out trying to get a response to their survey, and it's like a local government taking it on versus having an expert who deals with it, I think is night and day difference. And thus, I think where the cost comes in, because you have people trained in doing it. I think it's a good undertaking. I wouldn't use Chatham as the example, because they did a great needs assessment and they still have yet to
Sure.
have their senior center approved. I might use another Cape Town if they have one. I think it's imperative. And one of the areas that you didn't speak about is it's great to get the people we're not getting to right now. I think that's really, really important. But it also will help us in developing programs and services that we may not be providing, that we can. I look at the discussion earlier, of Dementia Friends and a dementia-friendly community. I think an in-depth look at the needs of our community can really be a roadmap for us as a board and the town and the staff and the Friends as well. So again, my normal questions that you've dealt with are the budgeting and what the action steps are moving forward. And if it's something, again, that we're not gonna have to fund through the budget, through the town, I think it's great to move forward with it. And if you want a motion from the board to move forward, it's great. I don't think we need approval from either town administrator or select board. However,
I do think we should have their support.
correct, I think there should be knowledge of what's happening, and it's courtesy to be before them. So, any more input from the board? Staff, do you have any input on it?
I think it's a really great idea, as like you said and Julie said, really to find the needs of what the people want out there and what programs are needed. So I think it's a perfect way to start the process.
Lauren, any input? Okay. I think it's important that we do have a formal motion. And I think the motion will need to include funding request from the Friends. So if someone wants to make a motion,
Before we do that,
please.
do you think there are a large number of seniors who are not participating in COA?
Yes,
You do?
yeah.
Because they don't know about it, or they just don't like the term, or,
I don't know,
you know?
yeah.
Ralph, I can help with that. One of the other hats I wear is over in the assessors board. And Harwich has one of the most generous and beneficial programs of tax assistance to seniors and others in the community. There are numbers of people who don't take advantage of it. And I think part of this needs assessment, I would love to see it work with the assessors, because there's another service there that's available, and the money is approved by the town. The money is sitting in an account to be able to assist seniors in the community. I don't know why, I do know why. There are some who are coming from a generation that are very, very proud. And I've heard this, sitting at meetings with members of the community, saying, please take advantage of this tax deferral. Please take advantage of this program that, well, no, because there are other people who need it more than I. It's like, oh dear God, no they don't. You need it yourself. It's very difficult to get that across. So I think there are a number of people who, for a myriad of reasons, do not take advantage of programs that we have to offer. I think I'd love to hear, from some of those who are not taking advantage of these programs that we have in town, what we can do to get them to take advantage of it.
Because I find some of my colleagues don't like the sound of council on aging. They're not aging, they're young, vigorous folks, they claim. They're 70s. But
And that's interesting, because that's come up a couple of times. And I know Julie has had that on her mind of how we define it. And that's a good opportunity, for us moving forward in 2024 as part of a discussion, led by staff,
right.
to investigate, is a name change appropriate? Because we've got these three levels. Council on Aging as a department, Council on Aging Board of Directors, Friends of the Council on Aging. And no disrespect to anybody, but if you look around the room, the board members, outside of Linda, none of us are spring chickens. So
Kind of like old
I'm going to
heads.
tell you how old I am.
old hens is correct, Ralph.
Just trying to find out how old I am.
So I think this is a great program. I think that's one of the things that we can also pick up with and start running with 2024. I would love to see a motion that states that the COA Board of Directors supports a needs assessment with financing from the Friends of the Council on Aging.
Again, as stated, I would make that motion.
Is there someone who could second it?
I second it.
That motion is second. Any further discussion about it? And do you have any discussion on it, or
No, I'm
are you
good.
comfortable with that motion?
Yes, thank you.
Then all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is a unanimous vote. That's great. I think it's, I don't know what, I'll know the cost after the fact, but I know it's not cheap. We have some really well-meaning people in town, and it's great to say we can do it. We tried it with the Friends. And again, that was a relatively expensive undertaking for a one-day event. My frustration, and you hear me say it a lot, action steps. What's next? What do we have to do? So as long as we can schedule something with, it may be a great time to do both of those programs, both the Dementia Friends and the needs assessment
Okay,
before the select board. So if you want to touch base with Megan, then we'll go from there.
okay.
And let us know if it's going to be agended so that
Yeah, of course.
your board can be there to back you up.
Okay.
Do you have anything else today?
That is all.
Then we will go around the room. Ralph, anything to,
I have nothing, thank you.
Nothing.
John? Linda?
Not at this time, thank you.
And
I have a lot to go through.
no, that's fine. And again, I will give you my number so that you can, you
Okay.
know, if you want to reach out with any questions.
Please do.
But what are your thoughts of your first meeting?
I like it.
Okay. And we thank you for stepping forward to serve with us. And we have a great committee. We really do. And it's an honor to serve our community. So, Andrea, do you have anything else?
No, no, thank you.
Laura? Then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would so move.
Second.
It has been seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Can clean the table. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in, folks.
Somebody got to push the red button or something?
Press the button.
Talk about technically challenged.